Well, the NC's National Executive Committee's Lekgotla is currently underway in Boksburg, and this is where party representatives from right across the country deployed as ministers, deputy ministers, and as well as premiers and executive mayors will seek to put in place a working plan to implement the 6 priorities that are outlined in the January 8 statement. The gathering is expected to be a crucial one ahead of this year's local government elections. For more on this, let's get the very latest with SABC News reporter Natasha Phiri. Natasha, a very good afternoon to you. So we saw that, of course, press briefing by Fikile Mbalula. But before that, party president Cyril Ramaphosa, they're opening officially the Lekgotla. Just briefly take us through some of those highlights and also take us through the agenda for today. Good afternoon.
Well, thank you so much, Alicia. Good afternoon to you and to our viewers indeed. So we saw ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa opening, the session or the first day of the ANC Lekgotla which will then, I beg your pardon, come to an end on Monday. And Alicia, you played a bite there, where you spoke about strengthening of law enforcement agencies. Not only that, he also highlighted the other 6 priority points of the ANC that the ANC will seek to operationalize here. Issues around local government, the economy. He had said that those 2 main issues really need to be focused on, because if you focus on the economy, it will then result in job creation. You focus on fixing issues around local government, service delivery, issues that plague our communities on the ground. Everything else then will, seemingly fall into place. But before that, Alicia, we had an opportunity to doorstop the president. And of course, he spoke about what we've been seeing recently, those killings, brazen shootings that we've been seeing in broad daylight. A case in point is the issue or the shootings that happened in Boysens, in Johannesburg, in Pretoria, and Atteridgeville in the Eastern Cape, all those various provinces. And the president saying that he spoke to the National Commission of Police, saying that they really need to redouble their efforts to actually deal, with these issues in the country. But of course, you mentioned, Alicia, the issue, of this Lekgotla. It is an important one because it is a local government election year. And just towards the tail end of our doorstop, when I asked the president, is he confident that the ANC will do well? He says he will swipe. The ANC will be swiping or wiping, I beg your pardon, the floor off in these elections, somewhat signaling that the party will be doing well. I need to remind you and the viewers that in 2021, the ANC got about a 45% share of the vote. In 2016, they got about 53% of the vote, and the ANC hopes that coming out of this Lekgotla, they will be developing a plan of action to actually tackle this. But I also need to remind you that through their plan of action last year, when they had their ANC roll call event, they developed a 10-point plan of action to actually turn around, local governments, especially in those municipalities where they lead. They came up with the local government barometer that assesses and monitors the performance of their deployees in local government. But let me just bring in the ANC national spokesperson, Ms. Mahlenge Bengu-Mutsiri. Mahlenge, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. Just, Mahlenge, earlier on, we spoke to yourselves and the Secretary General, especially on this particular issue of the ANC's, barometer to assess and monitor the performance of, ANC-led municipalities. I know you will be releasing that report soon, but perhaps just tell us what could the ANC actually highlight, or what did the ANC actually highlight in, that barometer?
Well, remember we started off before putting the barometer in place. We started off by making a skills assessment, experience, competence of our public representatives, including our councillors, and that is really what informed a number of the items in that barometer that we use to gauge levels of success and levels of performance. And also remember that the ANC's candidate selection guidelines, particularly for councillors, stated very clear about how to establish whether an ANC councillor is doing what is expected of them in the guidelines, being rooted among communities, being active in the branch, running community-related campaigns, supporting them, making sure that there are no criminal records related to you and your conduct, making sure that the troika in the municipalities work well, particularly for those who are mayors and the chief whips and the speakerage. And so all of those things cumulatively are taken into consideration in order to be able to measure the performance of our deployees. And of course, you've just mentioned that last year we convened the councillor roll call. Those marching orders and the pledge that was taken, all of those are the commitments that our deployees are making. And so you have to go back to the pledge to see what it is that we pledged and whether we are living that pledge in real time. And those are some of the things that we will be considering. But more importantly than not, being part of a campaigning community, supporting community members, knowing the ward street by street. You should be able to have a street sheet for each street and should be able to understand the socio-economic conditions of the people that live in the different streets. So basically that really requires you to be really reconnected with the people.
And I'm just, I was just thinking to myself earlier on, when the ANC used to enjoy the majority vote or majority support, they would hold the ANC NEC Lekgotla that then will afterwards would be the cabinet Lekgotla that would inform the State of the Nation address and inform what government has to do throughout the year. Now that the ANC finds itself in a government of national unity, how difficult or how easy is it to come together with all these political parties to say, listen, this is what we put forward as the ANC. If the DA says we don't agree with that, this is what we put forward. How do you find yourself in such a situation?
Well, it hasn't been a difficulty because that same planning cycle that you are referring to is the planning cycle that we're following.
But how do you avoid issues like, remember the contentious issue of the VAT increase that we saw last year?
Suppose there is a clearinghouse where matters that are in dispute or are of contention gets referred, and a number of those issues have gone to the clearinghouse. We do not expect that kind of where the differences are so thick such that even a dispute resolution mechanism wouldn't work. We expect that that experience of last year, treat it as a teething experience, but I think we expect all parties that are represented at the national legislature would conduct themselves in the best interest of what the people of South Africa are looking for. Of course, we have to ensure that with our 40%, we remain still the largest party, and it is important that we satisfy ourselves that that which is contained in the Freedom Charter, whose 70 years we were celebrating in 2025, the 30 years of the adoption of the democratic constitution, whose anniversary we're celebrating this year, that all of the policies that are currently being implemented from the 6th administration, from previous administrations up until now, are policies that derive authority and legitimacy because they are aligned to our constitution, because they are aligned to that lodestar document, the Freedom Charter.
And Ms. Begu, just lastly, just on a somber note, one of your deployees could have been here, the MMC in Ekurhuleni, who sadly got washed away by the floods in Mozambique. Is there any update that you can give us from the party side? Is anything happening? Rescue efforts? Please update us on that.
All I can say that effort is still ongoing, and it is indeed a very painful experience, particularly for the family and also for our own colleagues in Ekurhuleni and the community. And we remain hopeful that the sun will rise again on this matter. And indeed, we can also call in the executive mayor who's part of this meeting to provide yourselves with an update. If it's not today, it can also be tomorrow.
Thank you so much for your time. And of course, we'll catch up with you. Okay, thank you. Alicia, of course, that was the ANC spokesperson, Mahlengi Bengu. Right now, what we do know is that various ANC members and various deployees, like you said in your introduction there, deputy mayors, director generals of departments, those from SALGA who belong to the ANC are now in various commissions discussing various, those 6 priority points or those topics that we actually, spoke about. Mahlengi spoke about a myriad of issues, but I just also want to bring your attention to something that we've been following as members of the media, the issue of the Johannesburg Regional Conference. When we asked the Secretary General, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, if he had received a letter that was sent to Hope Papo, the Gauteng Provincial Task Team Coordinator, drafted by the former chair of the ANC in the Johannesburg region, and the mayor, the current mayor, Dada Morero, just raising his concerns about, the electoral outcomes in the election agency, a conflict of interest. He had said that they received that, Alicia, and this is something that he is looking into. So a whole number of issues, to be looked into, to be reflected on, just here on the sidelines of the ANC NEC Lekgotla, which will end on Monday. With that said, it's back to you in studio.
A very comprehensive update there with SABC News political reporter Natasha Phiri joining us live from Boksburg, of course, as the ANC sits down for its NEC Lekgotla.